Welcome to the class, everybody. In this first lecture of semester 5 paper 1, that is paper is all about to deal with the Y instrumentation. Mostly in this particular paper we will study all the techniques and the different types of the instrument that are used for the analysis of the samples, and the different techniques that are used to determine the structure of any biological materials, particularly mostly the macromolecules. They are being analyzed and their structure can be determined by the different types of methods and the instrumentations. So this is all about what we will learn into this paper, is mostly about the different types of techniques and the instruments that are generally used for the analysis of macromolecules. In the first unit you have particularly the spectroscopy of samples, mostly the instrument, that is ultraviolet, and then visible spectroscopy, IR spectroscopy, and different type of the light oriented instrument that analyze the samples. So first unit is mostly based on the spectroscopy. The spectroscopy mostly deals with the absorbance of a light, that is the light that particularly transfer from a particular medium, study the absorbance of a light by that particular medium and analyze the sample, whether it can have a high or low concentration, or it can also be determine the structure level of particular compounds. So the first topic is what it is, the electromagnetic radiations. Electromagnetic radiations is what the electrons in the nuclei, when in presence of an electric field and the magnetic field, they produce a certain spectrum or a light in the form of electromagnetic radiations. So this is what the nuclei, the electrons, under the influence of the magnetic field, they produce this radiation, particularly that is called the electromagnetic radiations, and this is also called as the spectrum of light, right? So this spectrum of light or these electromagnetic radiations will create a spectrum of a light that have the different wavelengths. That means the movement of this particular the electrons around the nucleus creates a particularly spectrum of a light, and that spectrum of a light will have the different types of a wavelength, and this different type of a wavelength produce certain different types of lights. That means the electrons, when it oscillates, they create a particular radiation, that is the electromagnetic radiation, since they move in the presence of the electromagnetic field. Therefore they produce a different spectrum of a wavelength, and that wavelength is actually correspond to the each and particular radiations. So as I told you, when this electrons, they move around the nucleus, they actually move in the form of energy, that is the wave, so they move in the form of a wave along the electric field and the magnetic field. So when they travel to a particular directions, they produce the different type of a wavelength energy, that is starting from this up to this, the wavelengths can be produced of a different varieties. That means maybe there is a long wavelength or maybe there is a short wavelength. Now this particular wavelength will create a spectrum of different radiation. You can see here we have 7 different types of radiation that is produced based on their the wavelength, right? So the wavelength actually determines the radiations, which type of the radiation can be produced when the electrons they are oscillates around the nucleus. So this is what overall the concept of electromagnetic radiations or the light spectrum. So electromagnetic radiation is what? It is actually the movement of electron in the form of a waves, and that movement, it creates the spectrum of a light which has the different wavelength, and each wavelength will correspond to the particular radiations, and this radiations is actually the different type of rays, we can say. Looking to this particular image, this particular area, it is actually the human is able to see, that is what it is, the spectrum of a light, right? So this particular area is the visible area of a radiation, that particular wavelength range the human eye can capture. Therefore it is called the visible range, mostly 400 to 700 nanometer, right? Only this wavelength we can see, the rest of this and this we cannot see, because either they are the wavelength is too much large or the wavelength is very small, right? So for example, we also can see the effect of the rainbow, right? This rainbow effect is actually it is the dispersion phenomena. When the light passes through the water, it disperses into the different types of the color, right? So this particular color, see, because these lights, they have a wavelength range in the range of 400 to 700 nanometers, right? And particularly this particular color, you can see mostly we are seeing the green here, right? So since into the spectrum of a light there are several different colors, but we are seeing particularly one, because the out of the several colors into the light, most of them they are absorbed and very few or the one can be reflected. In this case we are seeing the green color, that means all other colors they are absorbed and the green is what? It is reflected. Therefore we see the green color only. So the absorbance and the reflection of a light will determines the type of a light we can see into the particular vision. Okay. So this particular electromagnetic spectrum is created by the movement of electron in the form of a wave under the influence of the magnetic field, that is create the electromagnetic radiations. Okay. So these 7 types of radiation generally are produced, which are very useful to the human beings. First is what is the radio wave. Now this radio wave is actually captured by the particular radio stations, right? They are also emitted into the gases in the space, right? So the radio waves, mostly the radio, they have the particular range frequency, okay? That range frequency has particular wavelength, okay? So mostly it is readable into the megahertz or the kilohertz. Then second is the microwaves. Now these microwaves generally produce a heat, right? So generally the routinely used microwave that we generally use for the cooking purpose, it has produced the heat actually, right? And also there are certain microwave used by the astronomers to structure the galaxy. Okay? Then we have the infrared. Infrared mostly used in night vision cameras in the order to detect the objects even in the dark or the absence of the light. Okay? So generally our body actually produce the certain produce certain temperature, and that temperature or the heat can be collected by this infrared light, right? So mostly infrared cameras or the infrared goggles, they are generally take the use of this particular radiation. Visible light is actually the light that we generally see, as I talked about earlier. Okay, so visible light mostly is produced by the fireflies, light bulbs, and most of the stars, right? Ultraviolet light, it has particular radiations, okay? Mostly it produced from the sun, okay? So it is quite infectious and the somewhat hazardous to the skins, because the ultraviolet UV radiations, they can create the mutations into the DNA, right? X-ray is actually the it has the more frequency, high frequency, and the less wavelength, right? So this X-ray, this ionizing radiation, that means they can pass through your different body parts. Okay. So generally, doctor they use the X-ray to diagnose particular difficulties in your body. Also to scan the certain things. Generally, airport security they use the X-ray in the order to scan your bags. Gamma rays is it has the same use of the X-ray for the imaging of particular objects into the body. Okay. Generally, CT scans they are using this gamma rays. Okay. So these are the 7 different types of radiation that generally called as the electromagnetic radiation produced, which has the different wavelengths. This particular image you can see here, as I talked about these 7 different types of radiations. These different types of radiations is actually produced by the different types of objects into the universe. So radio waves, they are produced particularly by the radio stations. Microwave, I has talked about you, this is produced by the kitchenware. Infrared. Okay. Here we can see mostly the gamma ray and the X-ray, right? They are having the very short wavelength, that means they have the high frequency. Now this X-ray and gamma ray, they can ionize and they can transmit through your body parts. So mostly the X-ray or the CT scan we use for this particularly rays, and the gamma rays is mostly produced by the radioactive elements, right? So this, as we can see, the wavelength here, it is actually the longer, and now it has become narrower. That means the longer the wavelength, the frequency is the less. Shorter the wavelength, the frequency is very high. Okay. So the high energy and high frequency of X-ray and gamma ray, they actually makes more hazardous to the human body. Okay. So generally we do X-ray and gamma ray, but we cannot do more frequently because they have the high frequency and the high energy and can cause the mutations. So the distance and the amount of exposure will determine its side effect on the body. So these are all 7 different electromagnetic radiations generally produced, and it has the particular applications into the universe, right? Now the very most important law is the BS law. Okay? In the order to study this spectroscopy, we should know this BS law concept, because most of the spectroscopic instruments, they are based on the BS laws. Okay? So to understand the BS law, what we need particularly 3 laws to study. Okay? These 3 laws are actually the combination of a BS law. So we'll see these 3 laws exactly. The first law says it is the amount of light absorbed is proportional to the thickness of the absorbing material, but it is independent of the incident light, right? So the light that will be absorbed will depends on the thickness of the material, that means the particularly the cuvette or the solution where it is placed, right? Second law is stated that the amount of a light absorbed will depends on the concentration of the solutions or the number of the absorbing molecules is the same. The third law is actually stated that the combination of first and second law. Stated that amount of a light absorbed depends on the concentration as well as the thickness of the absorbing material. So first and second law combined together is called as the third law, means the BS law. First law is actually the Bohr-Lambert law. It says it depends on the thickness of a absorbing material but independent. That means the intensity of the incident light do not have to do anything with the absorbance of a light. Okay? This is the first law. First law is called as the Bohr-Lambert law. To explain this law, generally a solution is placed into the particular medium which is having the thickness B, right? Okay, and we pass the light through this particular solution. Okay, so the second solution will absorb only the 50% of this first solution. That is the light from the first source. When it passes through the particular thickness and the solution, it is absorbed only 50% by the second one. Okay, and the second cuvette light, it is when it passes to the third one, only the 50% of the second one will be absorbed, and the 50% of the third will be absorbed into the 4, and the 50% of the 4 will be absorbed into the 5. That means 50% of 50 is 25, and so on and so on and so on. That means what? The intensity of a light is reducing by the 50%. That means the successive tubes will absorb only the 50% of the light. Okay, so the thickness is determining actually the absorbance of light, not the intensity of an incident light. This was the first law. Now the first law is mathematically written like this: I by I0 is equal to e raised to minus kb. Okay, where this I is what? It is the intensity of a transmitted light, that is the light that is transmitting. I0 is the intensity of a incident light, that is the light that is inciding on the samples. B is what? Is the thickness of a material, okay, through which the sample is light is passing. And the K is actually the constant for the absorbing material. So in this way, it's actually when the light is passing through a particular material which is having the solution, okay, this light will be absorbed by this solution. Okay, so I0 become the transmitted light, I become the incident light which is passing through a particular thickness. Okay, so detector will detect the light that is coming from the light source which is passing through the solution. Right? We can modify this particular equation. I by I0 is equal to e raised to minus kb. Simply we have to take the log of this, so it becomes log 10 I by I0 is equal to minus kb, or more simplified way, this minus sign we can easily remove by interchanging these denominators. So log 10 I0 here by I is equal to kb. So simply the first law equation, that is I by I0 is equal to e raised to minus kb, we have simplified in this particular way, right? Now we'll move to second law. Second law, it says that the amount of a light absorbed by the material depends on the concentration of the solution. Okay, so this can be mathematically written in this form: log 10 I0 by I is equal to Kc. Okay, where the K is what? The constant, and C is what? It is the concentration of the absorbing material. Now in this case particularly, the thickness of a light, that is thickness of a solution, and the concentration of the solution is very important. When we pass the light through the solution which are the less concentration, the more light will pass, right here. And when we pass the light through the solution which has the high concentration, the less light will be passed. Okay, so this particular explanation for what? It depends on the concentration of the absorbing molecule. That means the less concentration, more light will pass. High concentration, less light will be passed. So this second law actually based on the what? It is the concentration of the solution. First law what? First law was based on the thickness of a absorbing material. Second law based on the concentration of the solution, right? So we combine this first law and second law. Okay. So first law and second law when we combine, so this is the first law and this is the second law. First law says it depends on the thickness of the absorbing material, that is the B, and the second law says it depends on the concentration of the solution, that is the C. So when we combine this together, we get like this equation, that is the log I0 by I A B C. Okay, so A is what? K and K dash. Okay, we have cancelled this and we put the A. Okay, A is what? The absorbance constant, B is the thickness, and C is what? C is the concentration. So these law together we can define as like this. The Beer-Lambert's law it is called, or simply Beer's law, combination of one and two laws. It states that the amount of light absorbed is proportional to the concentration and proportional to the thickness of the absorbing material. That is called the third law. Okay, so this third law is actually called the Beer's law, which is actually the combination of Beer-Lambert's law and the second law. Okay, so combining this first law and second law will give you the overall Beer's law. Okay, so hope this has been understand to you, because this particularly very this law is very important, since it is actually the basis for all other spectroscopic instruments, right? So this is the third law, that means the Beer's law, right? Now when there is certain defects into the instruments or the experimental parameters, the Beer's law cannot be followed by the particular instruments or the experimental setup. So we will see what are different factors that is actually responsible for not following the Beer's law. This is called the deviations in the Beer's law. Okay, so we have these 6 particular factors actually which contribute to the deviations of the Beer's law. Okay. So the first is what is the concentration of the sample. So high concentration is actually they cause the dimerization or the polymerization of the sample. Okay. When we put the high concentration sample, the sample may get polymerized. Therefore, when we put it into the instrument, their spectra, absorption spectra will be different than the original one, that the monomers. Okay, monomer will have different spectrum and dimer will have the different spectrum. Okay, in fact both are the same solutions. Okay, but what happened, because of the high concentration it become polymerized. So the polymerized will give you different peak rather than the monomer. So there is a change in the absorption spectra, right? So in this way, particularly here you can see this, the dotted line is actually the deviations. Okay, and this is what thick line is actually the normal normal Beer's law spectra. So when there is a polymerization, right, the two factors generally here is lambda 1. Okay, this is the original wavelength, that is called isobactic point. Here you can see this is the isobactic point, right? So lambda 2 and lambda 3 as actually the different wavelength than the monomer, because it is maybe of the polymerized solution, right? So high concentration cause dimerization, this you have to understand, and sometimes high concentration leads to this precipitation of the solution. The precipitation of the solution may change the spectra of light, right? What happens when we use the low concentration? Low concentration actually denature the sample, and the denatured sample will give you the complete different spectra than the normal one. Here in this case, this is the deviation, positive and the negative deviation, right? When we use the high concentration, there is a precipitation, so you may get more spectra, that is called as positive deviation, and when we use the low concentration, there is a denaturation of the sample, so you may get the negative deviations, right? So simply concentration of the substance of the sample is very important in the order to have the particular proper absorption spectra into the instrument, right? Second is the instrument itself, that is the limitations of the instrument. Sometimes what happens, the instrument, if there is a defect, will not take the proper radiations, and that radiation cannot reach to the detector, right? Also the sensitivity changes. If your instrument is not calibrated, then what happens, there may be a power fluctuations. Okay, because of that power fluctuations, the light and the detector, they cannot work together properly. Okay, so the detection system may fail. So in these particular two cases, the proper BS law cannot be followed, right? So maybe the defects in the instrument cannot give the proper BS law values, right? Third is what is the temperature. Temperature is very important. Generally we use in the many experiments, okay, in the order to develop a color or in the order to make them this sample soluble, right? When we heat, sample becomes soluble. Or when we need a colorimetric experiment, we have to heat the sample so that the color can be developed, right? So temperature is more important one. So when we heat the sample, the absorption spectra will change, okay? It will not be the natural spectra, right? Also, when we heat the sample, their degree of the solubility will also get changed, right? So the temperature or the heating of the sample will create a change in the absorption spectrum, right? Fourth is the stability of compound. Stability of compound is very important because if they denatures or become unstable, your spectra will be different, okay? So instability will cause the improper reading of the optical density, or it may not follow the BS law. Also, when we do the experiment where the color is important, in that case there is an increase or decrease in the absorption spectra, right? Because we have to take the reading of the sample in a very short time, right? So in that case your sample has to be very stable. If you undergo instability, then there is an increase or decrease in the absorption spectrum. Third is the fluorescence. Now in case of fluorescence, what? Certain drugs such as many drugs, they can produce the fluorescence, and when such chemical compound, when we have to study by the spectroscopy, when we make the solution of this and put into the spectroscope, what will happen? The light is absorbed by the drugs, okay? There will be two different types of a light can be reached to the detector, because the light that is incident on the solution and the light that is produced by the solution in the form of a fluorescence, okay? So there is the two light can be produced. One is the fluorescence light and second the transmitted light. So there will be a confusion, right? So the fluorescence is actually fluorescent substance will create a difficulty in reading the proper absorption spectra, because they have the two particular intensity. One is the transmitted light and the second is the light which is created by the compound itself, that is the fluorescence, okay? So there are the two lights can be produced. Last is what is the turbid solution, right? Now turbid solution always give the high absorption, right? So if your sample is not turbid, but because of certain error, if it becomes turbidity, okay, so what will happen? It gives the high absorption. So we should reduce the turbidity of a sample, right? So these are all four different types, six factors which actually cause the errors into the instrument, or also they deviates the natural principle away from the BS law. That means these factors deviates the BS law. That means they cannot follow the BS law because the certain error, right? So we have the sample concentration, instrumentation, temperature, stability, fluorescence, and the turbidity, right? So this is what up till now the BS law and the electromagnetic radiations, right? So particularly this is for the first unit, right? Okay? That is the spectroscopy. Okay? We will continue the same unit in the next classes also. Okay? That's all for the today. Thank you.